always put a stamp on it and mail it, but we kind of think it'll be neat to have a whole lot of them at once, just on the desk.
We know why we're here. Why is it important? In the past, we hoped someone that we liked would run for the complaint department. That's what I used it as. If I wasn't happy with what they're doing, I complained about it. However, they have an important duty to perform. And this is a good time to thank all of you who have served and all of you who are throwing your hat in to serve. Would you please stand? If you've served in office in Eastland County, anywhere, please stand up, because we thank you for your service. We know the state of our union, and God help us for allowing it to get in the poor condition that it is. Now our state is in fair condition. And our county is in fairly good condition. That's because of the great people that are in here. We all know that orders, mandates, and taxes are ordered from the top, those that we elect to service, and impose on the lower, those that pay the bills. We must be prepared, and that is why these elections are so important. We must have servants in office that can take a stand and represent Christian, constitutional, and conservative values. And in that order, might I add. If you're going to hire them, tell them what you expect. Support them in their efforts and discuss with them those things that you feel are wrong. Go to the meetings. Be an informed voter. Those people in Washington, D.C. all came from the states. Our state capital is full of people that came from all these counties out here. We are the county. We are the ones that are rearing up young ones. The people here that have served. Let's get started. Each speaker gets 5 minutes. We had 13 speakers. I think, 2 of them that due to illness have not showed up, so we have 11 here today. Spend as little time as you can introducing yourself and tell us why you're running, because we're going to ask, if anyone wants to ask a question, we'll have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions per candidate. Then we will just move to the next candidate. Pardon us if we're a little strict on time, but we must have an end in sight. There should be time for more interaction after we've finished. Okay. I was given this list right here. And I think I'll just follow it at the top and we'll go on through it. Now, I don't know who's here and who's not here. I apologize. So I will call out a name. Are they marked in, do you know if they're marked in yellow? Have you seen this?
If they're in yellow, they're supposed to be here.
Well, I'll just call out names if any of them showed up. If they haven't, then we'll just go to the next one.
That's good.
In Cisco, the City Council, Precinct 3, Willard Johnson is running. Willard Johnson's not here. Dionne Wilcox is running. Are they present? They're a no-show. Nathan Bruno Berner. Not so, huh? Precinct Singh. A lot of these are do not have anybody running against them. They're unopposed, but never mind. Precinct 6, Chris Nichols. Precinct 7, Joe Petrie. No one is here from Cisco. Be safe. From Eastland, City Council, Zach Dart.
Here.
Amen. Come on up here.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Zach Dart. I'm currently seeking re-election to the Eastland City Commission. I've greatly enjoyed serving as a commissioner these past 6 years. My wife Chris and I live in Eastland for almost 20 years, and together we have 3 kids. I graduated from Texas State University with a computer science degree and worked locally here with TXOL Internet for 10 years, managing business networks and building websites. Over the past 9 years, I've worked as a church administrator for River of Life Church, teaching students, playing the drums, and conducting a healthy, growing, centered ministry on Christ Jesus. I enjoy snow skiing, date nights with Crystal, and all kinds of water sports with the family. Now, on to our local government. I think it should provide 3 things: excellent water, dependable sewer, and citizen protection. Let's talk about the first one, excellent water. Each citizen of Eastland deserves clean drinking water and water that is available every time you turn that faucet. We recently discussed and voted on, as a city, the installation of a new water main, bypassing the existing line that was kept failing and blowing out. This project did cost the city money, but it was necessary to maintain excellent water. Number 2, dependable sewer. This just might be the most important of them all. What if all over town commodes won't flush? Everything backs up and it's got no place to go. This would be a big stink. This is why we need dependable sewer. And this is why I voted on the construction of a new sewer plant down the street, which just came online a few months ago. The old sewer plant had a 20-year lifespan, but the city commissioners at the time financed it for 30 years. We're still paying for that old plant. And I made sure that this new one was only financed the lifespan and no more. Thirdly, citizen protection. It's the city's job to protect the citizens from fire and from harm of any kind. A few years ago, we hired the new police chief, David Howe, which he has been outstanding. We provided his force with new vehicles, computers, and the proper funding he needs. There will be no defunding of police while I'm on watch. Now let's talk some political. The city commissioner position is officially a nonpartisan position. It's not Democrat, it's not Republican, but I believe it's important to understand the values and principles of the person in the position and know how they use those to make their decisions. When it comes to deciding political issues, I believe in 3 things: freedom, biblical values, and limited government. Let's talk about freedom. Our country was founded on freedom. And here's one example of freedom on the city level. When COVID first started, we had a city meeting and we discussed the idea of mandating churches be closed if there were more than 10 people gathering. I stood firm and voiced my belief that each church has the freedom to do what they feel they need to do and not have the city government tell them what to do. And so I voted not to allow this. Let's talk about biblical values, number 2. Cities across Eastland County and across Texas have voted one after another to make their city a sanctuary city for the unborn, essentially banning abortion in the city limits. In Scripture, it says there are 6 things the Lord hates. One of these things the Lord hates is shedding of innocent blood. How much more innocent can you get than a baby in a womb? Also, God Almighty created life. Who are we but mere mortals deciding to take life away? That's why I'm ready and willing to vote to make Eastland a sanctuary city for the unborn the first chance I get. Number 3, limited government. Recently at a city meeting, we discussed on whether to enforce ordinances and regulations outside of the city limits for about a half a mile. I stood firm and said this is government overreach and totally unnecessary. People move outside of the city limits to get away from city ordinances and regulations, and this measure would have just been more government. I do believe we need some government, but most oftentimes we don't need more government. In conclusion, my family loves living in Eastland, and we love seeing all the great things that are happening here. I want to be involved in helping our great community flourish even more. I'm a servant by heart, and would love the opportunity to continue serving you more. Thank you.
Anybody have a question they'd like to state it on that?
Thanks, sir.
Ben McNabb.
Thanks, sir. Hello, everybody. Ben McNabb. I'm a pharmacist. I also am a owner of Love Oak Pharmacy down the road. I was more or less appointed to city commissioner last year, and no one ran against me. So this is your first year to consider voting for myself. I would appreciate that. I have a doctor of pharmacy degree from the University of Texas at Austin, so don't hold that against me. But it was a fantastic school. I am a conservative. I'm from Eastland. I grew up here. I went to Eastland High School, and it was certainly a little bit of a change going from there to Austin, but I think what I learned from that is really being able to see things from various perspectives and always listen. I like to consider myself that I will always listen to any concerns, whether you're conservative, whether you're liberal. I'm there to listen and make the best decision possible for the community. That being said, I do have business experience in restaurants, gift stores, healthcare, so I feel like my background is beneficial for decision-making processes in the community. I've been a manager of 20 employees at any given time. I also am quite involved at the state level, so I work with the Texas HHSC Value-Based Payment and Quality Improvement Advisory Committee, so it's called a mouthful. But I work with the state of Texas to try to improve patient outcomes while lowering healthcare costs. So trying to find those win-win situations where healthcare can be improved while also trying to save money, especially in Medicaid, which is a huge part of the Texas budget. So I've enjoyed that, serving in that capacity. We've also been very involved with COVID vaccination lately at our pharmacy level, but I'm also currently the president of a network of pharmacies called the Community Pharmacy Enhanced Services Network. We are a federal provider for that program. And so, again, my experience is taking 200 independent businesses across the state, trying to get vaccines allocated to everyone that's in need, and really helping and serving citizens all across Texas. That being said, it's a little bit about myself. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Expectations for the office. What's on the drawing board for you?
Well, there's a lot of good things happening in Eastland. There's a ton of potential with some new infrastructure opportunities, whether that's in the floodplain development, possibly city roads. Broadband is on the way. So I think that is going to be a huge asset to the community, trying to get more businesses and maybe more professionals moved out to these smaller communities, maybe getting away from the bigger cities because they can do a lot of their jobs remotely. And so trying to build and trying to be there to make sure that infrastructure is in place for this community to be successful long term, I think is extremely important. So I'm excited to continue making good decisions on behalf of those various projects.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Because I don't know you. Are you a Republican, a Democrat, or a pro-life?
I vote Republican most often.
Okay.
Actually, every election I vote Republican. going to shoot straight with you, but you know, I feel like you know, President Trump did a fantastic job. I think that his delivery was a little rough, but to say the least. But I think I look forward to the next elections and seeing, you know, who's put forward for that. But
Well, when the sanctuary city thing comes,
Sure.
how are you going to vote?
that's a great question. I would like to see more about it. From my understanding, a lot of the cities that have passed that have been sued. So I would like to understand more about that. And I would, is it still in court or?
No, I just want to know if you're pro-life.
I am pro-life.
Okay.
And I think that we need to do our best to win hearts and minds because I think we're losing the culture war right now. I'm not exactly sure
Yeah.
to what extent we'll be able to overcome Roe v. Wade in the future. I think that it is our responsibility to try to, you know, work within the limits that we have set forth. But I will tell you that my concern about that, I don't know much about that issue in particular. But I would say that we need to be careful that we don't bring undue liability on the city and possible expense because our taxpayers have to potentially pay for that. So I'd like to see the outcome of that. Hopefully, we would know that rather soon. But I would be very open to receiving feedback from our citizenry about it.
Okay, I just want to say one thing.
Yeah, sure.
Most people want a candidate that's going to go right or wrong.
Sure.
And I don't care whether you're going to be sued or not. I want to know which direction you're going to go. Are you going to go right or wrong? Are you going to worry about the legal part of it? And I'm giving you one.
Sure. I think
So
it still has to be considered, but I understand where you're coming from. I really do.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Good question.
Richard, if I may.
Yes, ma'am, you may.
I want to add to that, the cities that were sued, I think maybe there were 7, and the ACLU dropped the case.
Did they?
And there is a lawyer that has pledged his time for free. And so when that did happen, those cities didn't have to pay anything. The lawyer just did it all. They didn't get a penny. So
That's good.
answered your
Thank you for that.
Okay, next on my list is Cecil Funderburg. Cecil, you don't have to talk. We all know about you anyway.
That's all I can do is talk about my past experience. First of all, I do want to state unequivocally that I am pro-life, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I stand for Christian values. Pastor Jerry Maston, every year or several times a year, as well as some of the other members of the audience, put on a Christian Values Summit. And I have been privileged to attend a couple of those. And well, I'll tell you what, that just lights your fire. Whenever there's any questions about constitutionality of abortion or the ethics of abortion, I'm against it, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'll tell you what, these are hard acts to follow. You know, Zach and Ben. You know, I've been asked over and over and over several times who I'm running against. Nobody. I'm not running against anyone. I'm running for the citizens of Eastland.
Amen.
I think that my past experience, I've spent 32 years in law enforcement. I think that my reputation speaks pretty loudly about where I stand on a lot of things. To me, common sense is a major asset. You know, we can't just go into something and blindly cast a vote for something just because a few people are for it or because people are vocal about it. Each thing that we consider on city council has to be given considerable thought and compared to the values that a person holds within their heart. I have managed public budgets for about 37 years. You know, served as wore several hats down in Gorman when I was down there. I was police chief for 11 years there. served also as the interim city manager, as the city administrator, got the water distribution license, a sewer or wastewater treatment license. So I know a few things about some of the operations of the city. I just, I don't want anyone to think that I am trying to hold a position that I shouldn't be holding. I've only been on the commission for 2 years. I think that I've done a fairly decent job. And I think that, looking around the room, I see former mayors, former city council members, former economic development people, and even some present economic development people. I think that we're just very fortunate. I love Eastland. I moved here in 1990. I was police chief down there in Gorman until that time, and I was hired as police chief up here. My dad worked for Texas Electric Service Company here in Eastland. My granddad worked for Texas Electric Service Company here in Eastland. I remember the old swimming pool up on Park Hill. My dad was an expert. I thought he was an expert anyway. He did some high dives off the board, and I was pretty impressed with Eastland at that time. That impression still carries over today. So I'd be glad to try to answer any questions that anyone may have. I can't tell you how I can't say how I'm going to vote on a particular thing, but I think that if you know my heart, if you know my values, then you know how I'm going to vote on things. And I would appreciate your vote. Thank you so much.
Okay. Next on the list. Ken Knowles. Just about got it right. Sorry about that. I apologize.
Thank you. My name is Ken Knowles. Some of y'all know me, some of you don't, but if you follow Facebook, you're going to know who I am. I run the Eastland County, Texas Breaking News. Nearly 15,000 members. We try to keep everybody informed of what's going on all over our county. I am also the president of ECHO. Some of y'all know what that is. That is Eastland County Helping Others. I moved into Eastland in 1988. I lived in Carbon. I've served as city councilman there in Carbon and as mayor. As far as education, I don't have much more of an education than high school and some trade school. I'm a hands-on person, and I care about everybody in the county, but especially here in Eastland. I had a house fire and moved here in 2007. I subsequently got a job working under Cecil Funderburg, who is a man I've always highly respected. And I really don't have a whole bunch to say. Nothing bad about the incumbents that I'm running up against, because all three of them, I just met Zach tonight, never met him before, seen him around 100,000 times. I know Ben, I know Cecil, and there's nothing wrong with them. I just want an opportunity to run and to be and sit on the city commissioners of Eastland. I think that I have a knack for helping people, making good judgment, and making good decisions for everybody involved. There's really not much more to say other than I am pro-life. I'll sign that if you got it ready right now. But I'm a Republican, and I hold great values, and I'm not a very good speaker. But as you can tell, I did get a couple of cookies, and they were good. But anyway, there's not much more to say other than what these guys have already said. It's horrible being last. I could sweep or something, y'all can watch me. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I want you to know, I'm honest with you, I do have a disability. I am going blind, but that's not going to stop me from caring about what our citizens do, what they are. And Ben can tell you what drugs I'm on. So. Thank you. I appreciate you considering me on May 1st.
Insist, okay. Gorman. Vicki Brown here. Lisa Liminack. Laura Lucky Isabel. And Robert Irvin. In the City and Ranger, we have the Mayor, John Casey. Running also is Mike Law. Precinct 1 is Larry Monroe. Place 3 is precinct. Place 1 is Larry Monroe. Place 3 is Kevin Moyes. Place 3 is Charles Marty McKee. Not present. I know this is a small town, and we pretty well know what everybody does and everything, but it's all running downhill, and it's going to get here. We need to be informed. The school board in Cisco, Chris Nichols. Place 7, Joe Petrie. In Eastland, uncontested, Board President David Hullum. In Ranger, Kristen Wilson Lee. Carolyn R. Pork. Come here. I am so proud of you. We care.
Thank you. I'm a retired school teacher, so it's typical that I would be the overachiever and show up tonight. I'm not even sure if anybody is from Ranger in here. Anybody in here from Ranger? All right. I just wanted to say thank you for hosting this. I really appreciate it. I know that I haven't lived here very long. I only moved here 2 years ago. But I've been visiting family here since 2014, and I actually got married in Eastland County. So at the old Mingus Church, which I don't even think it's there anymore. When we got married, and it didn't even have electricity or anything, but it was a beautiful wedding, and so we had a great time. I'm running for seat 2 on the Ranger Independent School District Board. My first 4 years in education were spent teaching in a small Alaska Native village school. So I have some experience with being the outsider and being different and bringing in some new ideas. But what I loved about that community is that we shared the same common ideals, and we believed in the potential of all of our students. And what I learned from that experience was it truly takes a village to raise a child. We all believed that to bring a community to life, it meant investing in a child's education in all ways. Physically, by getting them to school every day. I literally dragged kids out of bed some mornings. Emotionally, by loving and supporting them. And economically, by remembering that a school is the heart of a community, and it deserves to be treated as such. My last 18 years I spent at Westfield Middle School, home of Sarah Palin, big fan, where I was very successful. And I believed the success of our community came from the fact that we believed, again, in those same ideals. I didn't worry about the circumstances of my students, and I treated them with respect. I treated their parents with kindness and respect, because without that, I know that I wouldn't have achieved the results that I achieved. I never saw the test scores of my students, 150 every year for 18 years, never saw them decline when they were in my classroom. And that's because I believed in them. And I believed in their ability to learn, and our community believed in a commitment to achieve this regardless of the sacrifices that we made. And as teachers, if anybody in here is a teacher, we spend hours at school. And I grieved leaving my career in Alaska. I truly missed being a teacher. Luckily, I'm currently working at Ranger College with students, and I appreciate that. Most importantly, the children are the reason for our schools, and this cannot be forgotten. This is my most important thing I want to say tonight. The school isn't the place for political gains or agendas. It is for learning and nurturing the future of our community. It is for bringing out the best in our children. It is about educating our children so they have all the same choices and opportunities that a child has in any other community. I believe that being a member of a school board means assuring that this is not forgotten and the important decisions made for the best of our children. At the heart of every decision should be, is this what is best for our students? I have learned my work conditions depend on the value I place on the students that I'm directly supporting. When we all focus as a team on the same goals, the decision we make to support our students should drive the infrastructure of our system in the right direction, including curriculum development, hiring practices, and very importantly, I believe school improvement. I know that I'm new to Texas and Ranger, but I believe in my heart that my husband and I will raise our daughter here and grow old here. I have fallen in love with our little town and the community of people that love and support the students in Ranger. I hear rumblings at times that change is needed. The best thing to do when stuck in a rut is to change course and try a different lane. It doesn't mean to change the destination. I'm not looking to change everything. It only means we change how we get there. If our blinders don't allow us to see other courses, we need to and should let someone else drive for a bit. I hope that my outside perspective with inside motivation, including a daughter in the Ranger school system, she's in pre-K this year in Vicki Doyle's class, who is the most amazing teacher I've ever met. I hope that the Ranger School District will allow our school to see new ways to reach the same destination, and that is destination, providing the best education to our students by whatever means necessary, and remembering that our common goal means we can achieve remarkable together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Place 2, Mike Bonnie. Place 5, Gerald Gunnistonson. And place 6, Ashley McKee. That is it. The college is listed on there, there's none here. The hospital board. We don't have to get too many pages for that, because our hospital community is basically in Eastland. And the first step here is my doctor, Jackie Tucker. And I say that with some pride.
I'm not a doctor, I'm a nurse practitioner, okay? And they gave me 5 minutes, and I can say a lot in 5 minutes, okay? Those of you that know me. I started working at Eastland Hospital in 1973, right out of nursing school. I think Sue Watkins hired me about 5 times because I would quit and go somewhere else to better hours, raised my kids, came back all the time. Worked there until 1996 when I got my master's degree, and I'm a nurse practitioner working for Dr. DeLuca for the last 24 years. I'll probably be there till the Lord comes again. Retirement's not in the picture. But anyway, my goal in the hospital board is to keep the hospital viable and open. There, in the last 10 years, I think Ted said we had 27 rural hospitals in Texas close. There are about 8 more now that are just barely holding on. I don't want our hospital to be one of them. Without a local hospital, there's no hospital on I-20 between Weatherford and Abilene, and we need this hospital, whatever it takes. And we need to do what we can do to keep it strong. And at this point, it is strong. We have one of the strongest rural hospitals, I think, in this state, actually, I think. And so that's my goal, is to have a strong, viable hospital to take care of not only our citizens, but traffic on I-20, anybody that comes. Do y'all have any questions? Michelle?
So like as a long-standing board member, you've seen issues over the years. What do you think is currently the biggest issue the hospital is facing? And what do you plan to do to contribute to be part of the solution?
Well, the problem with all rural hospitals is finances. You don't make your money on inpatients. You have to have a lot of government programs and a lot of other things. And there's been several government programs that we have had in the past that have gone under. And I think there's a couple more that we're using right now that are in sunset that could go away. And so we're struggling constantly to find new ways to make money, to keep the hospital viable. You do not make money on hospital admissions. I think, and no matter how much you charge either, I think we receive about 30% of what we charge between Medicare and Medicaid insurance. No matter how much you charge, you don't get that much money. So we have to have a lot of outside programs to keep our hospital going. And that's what we do, is trying to keep the hospital financially viable in any way we can. Anybody else?
Nancy Stewart. Nancy has medical issues.
Mental issues?
Medical.
No, she's on vacation.
Oh, she's on vacation. I'm sorry.
I was waiting for you to laugh. Okay, let's see if I can get this.
I have a
right.
hard time laughing at myself.
Hi, I'm Nancy Stewart. I currently serve as the Secretary of the Board of Directors of Eastland Memorial Hospital, and I'm up for re-election this year. A little bit of background. I was actually born at Eastland Memorial Hospital. I grew up on a farm south of Cisco. I married Joe Stewart Jr. from the Ranger Olden area, and we have 2 grown children and 1 precious grandson. I have a bachelor's in economics and a master's in business administration, both from Tarleton State University. I taught on the college level at both Tarleton and Cisco accounting, business, and computer classes. My husband Joe and I have ran several successful businesses throughout the years, and we have just recently semi-retired so that we have more time to concentrate on our properties here in Eastland County and for the cattle business and to have time with our grandchildren. I've served on the board of directors of Eastland Memorial Hospital for 8 years and also on the finance committee for those 8 years. When Eastland Memorial Hospital opened its doors in 1953, it was one of 5 hospitals in the county. Today, it's the only hospital that is still open. And that's not by accident. That came from dedicated directors willing to make the tough decisions to keep costs low and services available to this community. And rural hospitals do struggle for funding. Most rural and even urban public hospitals make up their operating shortfall from their tax revenue. In Eastland Memorial Hospital District, our taxing district is about the size of Eastland School District. So if you live in the Eastland School District, it's likely that you also live in the Eastland Memorial Hospital District. And in an effort to keep taxes low through the years, the board has done a great job. The average home at a value of $100,000 pays about $90 a year in taxes to the hospital district. In 2020, we raised about $450,000 in property taxes. Now, it costs our hospital between $45,000 and $50,000 a day to keep the doors open. So $450,000 keeps the hospital open for 9 to 10 days out of the year. The rest of the time, all of our funding has to come from other sources. Even with these low tax rates, Eastland Memorial Hospital is doing an excellent job. It's thriving. We have an ER, we have outpatient services, we have inpatient services, we have our wellness center, we have a great physical therapy program, cardiac rehab. We operate the dialysis center here in Eastland. We have the new regional healthcare clinic. We have a rural health clinic, the Walnut Street Clinic in Ranger, and we're considering putting the clinic in Cisco. We're doing great. Mr. Hoffman, the board president, mentioned the other day that the board is doing better financially than it ever has since he's been on the board. And he started in 1981. He followed in the footsteps of his father and his grandfather. The Hoffman family has been very instrumental into organizing and keeping our hospital here in Eastland. And the current administration and board has been very successful in finding supplemental programs to shore up the operating losses of the hospital. And the hospital loses between $150,000 to $500,000 a month on operations. So we have to have a way to fill in this gap with other funding. And the supplemental programs that we engage in have very little typically to do with the actual operations of the hospital, but they are where we get those funds from. One of the largest programs we participate in is called the Nursing Home Quick program. And that's where we partner with 30 nursing homes in our community, including the nursing home in Cisco and the nursing home in Eastland. And we work with them to bring up their quality measures and to increase the improvements in their nursing homes. And when they do that, they draw down more federal dollars. And because we participate with them in that and help them through that, we draw down some funds as well. And so the last 5 or 6 years, this is the main program we've been using to supplement our operating loss. And it's been very effective at that. It's even allowed us to put away a nice sized nest egg for the future. But this program, like all supplemental programs, is subject to being to closing down at any time. And we want to be prepared for when that program is gone. We want to shrink our operating costs here at the hospital so that our gap is much smaller. And we tasked our CFO this year with looking at all the departments in the hospital and finding ways that we can cut costs and be more efficient. And he was very good at that, to the point that he created a lot of tension in some departments. And I think that might have something to do with why we have so many candidates running for the board this year. But we have been very successful in shrinking that gap. We would like to be able to use the monies that we put back from our supplemental programs toward new facilities for the hospital. We'd like to expand what we do and to improve the quality of the care for our patients here as well. If you elect me to the board again, I promise to do my best to keep the hospital moving forward in a positive manner. Thank you.
Okay, then next will be Rebecca Pearson.
Nancy is not taking any questions today, So Rebecca called me this morning, and she said that she was not feeling well. She did not even go in to teach today. And so I told her that she could do maybe something like Nancy did, or email me something. Anyway, she ended up emailing me something, and I have not read it yet. Just got it a while ago. So bear with me. But just pretend like I'm Rebecca, okay? I'm thinking she's taller than me. Good evening, and thank you to all of you that have gone to so much effort to make this forum happen this evening. I regret that I am unable to be there with you. I come from a family that I come from a family that takes the obligation to serve one's community very seriously, and as a consequence, I am fully aware of the time and effort it takes to represent the community on an elected board. I am running because I have I am not running because I have any set agenda or any particular issue in mind, but instead because I have a heart to serve my hometown. We have an amazing hospital and a board of volunteers that I would like to be a part of, to learn from, and to serve with. What I lack in previous board experience, I feel I make up for that by bringing a different perspective to challenges based on my age and background. I graduated with honors from Texas A&M in 2018 and have taught elementary school in Midland and Eastland since that time. I grew up in Eastland and graduated with honors from Eastland High School in 2014. I am proud to call Eastland my home, and I would be honored to serve as a member of the hospital board. I would appreciate your vote to elect me, Rebecca Pearson, to the Eastland Memorial Hospital District Board of Directors. Thank you.
Lori Mangum.
Hello everyone, my name is Lori Mangum. I was born at Eastland Memorial Hospital. I went to school and graduated from Eastland and have been here ever since. I would love the opportunity to be able to contribute to my community and be able to serve on the board. I have learned how to budget money and work with a budget throughout the years. I was Eastland County's first joint elections administrator, and I would love the opportunity to help out our community. I love to serve people and help out and do whatever I can to make Eastland great. Any questions?
Bill Hoffman Jr. Okay.
Good evening. I tried to talk Leroy into coming to be in the Eastland to hold this up. Roy? I'm going to set this here. I think it was Nancy Stewart that said basically the Eastland Memorial Hospital tax district is the same as the school district, and that is right to a certain extent, but there are some differences that I think are important. So if you would like to look at this a little closer and find out if you're in the district or not, because that would determine whether or not you would be able to vote. If you're a resident of the district, have a valid voter's registration. So I'll put it up here and you can take a look at it. The first thing I'd like to say is that Nancy Stewart and Jackie Tucker, I serve with some great board members. Really, they do an excellent job, and I think you can tell by the presentation that you're lucky to have them.
We can't hear you very much.
So you're lucky to have both of them serving on the board. They do great jobs. I know most of you in here, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on myself. They did mention that I was old as dirt. That I've served on the hospital board for right at 40 years, I guess, which is a long time. I've seen it when we had 5 hospitals in the district. Now down to 1 hospital, which is that's a big change, and we're lucky to have the hospital that we have. I can say the one thing I'm most proud of is that I'm the 3rd generation from my family to serve on the hospital board. In fact, my grandfather was one of the original men that formed and built the hospital back in 1952. And in 1952, I'll go into the history a little more in detail in a minute, but in 1952, we had individuals that helped build the hospital literally by being carpenters and plumbers and electricians and people who worked with concrete. They built the hospital, and for their work, they would get shares of ownership of the hospital. So in the beginning, the hospital was a private hospital owned by those that contributed to the building of the hospital. And the hospital became known as the hospital that Coffee and Donuts built, because the ladies would come out at night when the men would come at after 5 of their normal jobs and work all night, and they would provide coffee and donuts for those that were working. So it became known as a hospital that Coffee and Donuts built. In 1989, it became evident to those of us that were on the board that we would have to do something different to fund the hospital from what we were doing, because government changes were coming and reimbursements were changing, and we were getting less and less dollars, and it got to the point where we were actually counting the pennies every day to make sure we could pay the bills. And so the only choice that we saw was to go forward with trying to convince people that we needed to form a tax district, impose an ad valorem tax on yourself now. And most times getting that done is not easy at all. What happened was that the voters in the district, in this district, voted to impose the tax. 1 minute left. You sure? Okay. So anyway, the district was formed and the taxes flowed, and today we have $996,000 in ad valorem taxes and in sales tax, which we got passed, a 1/2 cent sales tax. That goes, as Nancy says, 22 days, and it pays for those 22 days and no more. So we have to find ways to supplement. Now, a few tidbits. The ad valorem taxes are something we take seriously. We try to be good stewards of the money, and we started at 35 cents, and the law allowed us to go to 75 cents. We have continually lowered those rates for the ad valorem taxes, so that at this point we're, I believe, at 9 cents and have been as low as 5 cents, which means that on 150 $100,000 house, you're paying about $75 in taxes at a 5-cent rate. So we've been good stewards of the money. The hospital, I know I'm running out of time, but the hospital is not closing. I know there's been some rumors going around, and they must be smoking something, and it's not legal. But they couldn't be any more wrong. I mean, our hospital, as Nancy said, I made a statement in the board meeting that I've never seen the hospital this financially strong in the 40 years that I've been associated with the hospital. So I'd love to serve on the board. I like the opportunity to serve with those that have been on the board, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Emmett Laster.
So Emmett could not make it. I found out today. And so he's going to join us right now. Emmett?
Yes.
Okay. You have 5 minutes. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
You are introduced and it is your turn.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Ruth York and Robin Hayes for giving their time to serve not only in tonight's forum, but in all the ways they do all year. Excuse me. Some of my history. My wife, Kay, is from Gorman. We have 2 daughters, Lori and Whitney. Both graduated from the ISD and Baylor University. Whitney was valedictorian as a teacher, and a few years ago was named Elementary Teacher of the Year for the state of Texas. Lori had a very successful career, but after her husband was transferred back to Texas as director of EDSCO, she takes care of him and sometimes us. In fact, recently Kay and I have purchased a vacation house next to them. Getting older has increased our need for some occasional help from someone with our medical needs, and so we split our time depending on the situation. Eastland is still home. We have lived in the same house and have voted here for the last 51 years. I started at Texas Electric Service Company, now Encore, and they provided me the opportunity to attend college, resulting in an electrical engineering degree. I was assigned to Eastland Division in 1970 and retired here as area manager after 41 years. Part of my training included community involvement. As a result, I served several years as a Chamber of Commerce board member and 2 terms as Chamber President. Also have been on the Eastland Economic Development Board, the Industrial Foundation Board, was a Rotary Club member for 30 years perfect attendance, and was awarded the Paul Harris Fellow. I also received the Chamber of Commerce Golden Deed Award, was Bicentennial Celebration Chairman, voted JC Outstanding Young Man Award, President of the United Fund, Eastland Little League, and Eastland Girls Softball League, and received the City of Eastland citations for outstanding community service. These are only mentioned to note that Eastland has been good to me and my family the last 51 years, and I have tried to return that generosity by serving in my community. The hospital was built by hand by the people of Eastland. They came together as this community always does, and worked many times through the night to get it done. One young boy even served hot coffee and donuts to the workers as his contribution, and that was Bill Hoffman, and now years later, he's still serving his community in this hospital. At one time, we had 5 hospitals in the county, and when Rising Star and Gorman hospitals had closed, and Ranger and Cisco were close to closing, the board of directors worked to educate the voters that a district was needed. I was part of that board, and the district was created. The other hospitals closed, and their taxpayers had to continue paying taxes with no hospital, resulting in Eastland Memorial being the only hospital in the county. Several years later, the board found that an increase in sales tax was available, and the voters agreed to accept it. That sales tax now brings in more money than does the ad valorem taxes, thus reducing the load on our taxpayers. During these years, I was fortunate to help with funding, obtained a $100,000 contribution to help recruit Dr. Valerie DeLuca and Dr. Knight, a large donation for the CT scanner, and $200,000 for the rural health clinic. I am so sad that social media has used false information for a personal agenda. Statements have been made as fact without any question to find the truth. We have not eliminated any essential services nor discussed selling. In fact, we have expanded with rural health, additional doctors, including a surgeon, and working with Ranger College to add nurses in the area. You must be a resident of the district to vote. You can if you live in Cisco, or Ranger, or Garment, nor can you serve on the board. We have been hammered with change is good. If you believe that change is good without a good reason, then you didn't vote like I did in the last presidential election. The present board has served with the only agenda being to serve our community and provide health care to the best of our efforts. The hospital is in excellent financial condition, even in these difficult times. Sometimes hard decisions have had to be made to arrive at this point, but they were made with a clear head and a pure heart. We have a board that works together for the good of all, donating our time to serve. For the hospital to continue on this path, I encourage and ask that you support the incumbents, especially Bill, Jackie, and Nancy, and I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Emmett. I have a question for Emmett. Is that okay?
Yes, I
Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. I forgot to put the phone up too. So, I was wondering, like, could we ever, or what would it take to make our hospital a countywide hospital? Is that something that y'all would be interested in doing?
The board is vitally interested in that. It's discussed it many times, including with some attorneys. It is not just up to us. The outlying area that's not in the district would have to come together and ask for a vote to join the district. Then that area would have to vote to do so, and our existing district would have to vote to accept them. And yes, we would be interested in doing that. In fact, we talked to a lot of people that already think it's a countywide hospital, and we have to explain to them, no, it's only our taxpayers that are helping, not the entire county. And we encourage anyone to talk to anyone they know outside the district and see if they would be willing to help us make that dream come true. And thank you for the question.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Well, that concludes the introductions that we had this evening. Making these decisions on who to vote for are serious. We're talking to people that have to make decisions, weighing our freedoms, weighing our safety, weighing our health, weighing the future of our children. These are not decisions that we take lightly. These are normally decisions that we want other people to make. Leave us alone. I don't want to make them. And when we hire the people or elect the people to make these decisions, we kind of sit back and say, I sure do hope they make the right ones. And if they don't, I'm going to go to Facebook and tell them about it. We're all Christians in here. I'm going to be presumptuous there. If I'm not, I need to talk to you after this is over. Gossip, rumors, and innuendo makes this community a bad place. You know the people that are running now. Go to them. Ted, I'm not going to mention your name because they might come visit you. So I'm going to leave you out of it. But with your school board, you know what's happening nationally. I guarantee you the school curriculum is going to hit Eastland County, or it's going to hit the state of Texas. It's in Austin, if you're paying attention. It's in Austin, Texas, and it's in the capital now. They filter those bills. where we're gonna explain what transgender is in our schools, and we're not gonna do that, folks. Because we're gonna stand here.
Right.
I hope we have a governor that will stand and say, that is not gonna happen in Texas. And if he has to make that stance, every one of you, especially those elected officials, supporting him, makes him feel a little safer, a little bolder in his standing for us. It's coming. The law today, Biden's coming after your guns. He's coming after red flag laws. If you served in the military at any time and have been discharged with any situations at all, they're going to come for you. We've got to talk to our local officials. We've got to talk to the state officials and the federal. Find out what they're doing. Find out what votes are coming up. Send them postcards. Send them emails. Call them up. If you keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting, and that's not acceptable. I thank each and every one of the candidates that were here and to talk with us. I can apologize to you. I've never been to a hospital board meeting. I've been to 2 city council meetings, and I've never been to a school board meeting. So all I can do is say thank you. I can't complain. I hope to change that. And if y'all are in the same position I am, I hope y'all change that also. I think we have a little time. Does anybody have something that they want to generally speak about these issues? If not, we're going to be dismissed. Thank y'all very much. God bless you. And hopefully we'll see you again.